Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the metagame. Metagame, in simple words, is are the best decks of the Magic's Gathering in the current format. That is metagame. Who doesn't know? Who meets this word for the first time? Magic's Gathering offers many different types of the decks. For example, as per mid-range, the main decks, Azori Soldiers. Here we see. So basically, they divide it into aggro decks, mid-range decks, and the control decks. Also, we have combo decks. That's main for archetypes in the game. So and depending on the format, we have different metagame in each format. So because it depends on the card mana pool. So let's just start. MTG Goldfish is a really great, strong platform where you can find a meta game. You can search for any card prices, any staples, moving the shakers and other stuff. You can search for meta decks, search for tournaments. They have tools, and you can follow your collection, making your own decks, etc. So let's just start. So the main two parts of the site of this web project is cards and decks. So the cards here, we can see them by set and the popular cards and staples. What does it mean by set? So as I mentioned before in the previous videos, standard is a 2-year recent sets. The Pioneer and other formats are eternal. So for example, they take some year, and after this year they are going to print these cards, and all cards are printed after this year will be in this format. For example, Pioneer is all cards printed after Return to Ravnica set. In Modern is before after Meridian, and etc. Legacy and Vintage are all the formats. We will talk about them later, but the idea is the same. But the standard is a format that rotates every 2 years. The now it decided not to rotate it this year. It decided to make it 3-year format, but I don't know how much it will take. I just understand that something was wrong with the standard format this year, so they decided to make it 3-year format. So let's continue. Here cards. We can see all the sets here in standard. Also, they started to put here alchemy sets. It's only for arena, so do not mention them. Just mention those sets. For example, Wells of Drain, March's Machine, Aftermath, Phyrexia Obi-Wan, etc. For example, if I want to see, for example, this set, that's a Brothers War. So the interface is like this. Here we have tabletop, cost of all of each card in the set, summary. Here's MTGO currency, it's called ticks. Here we are, it's the set cost through the time. We can sort it however we want. So tabletop, week prices, card names, card numbers, etc. But the main two functions here are this: the tabletop price for a card and number of a card and its rarity. Also mana cost. And it's obviously that expensive cards are more playable than the cheap ones. So that means that if you want to create a deck that really plays good, it fits the metagame, you need to spend an amount of money for this deck. For example, let's see the Portal to Phyrexia. Portal to Phyrexia, here is the set of the card. Here's what does this card do. The Mythic, it's a rarity. The price and MTGO price. Why this card is cost $24? Because this card is really playable. Yeah, definitely. So we can see here the price history from the moment it was printed to nowadays. Let's see where does it place. Here we can see what decks in common use this card. For example, Commander deck. most of cards playable in Commander, so not mentioned, just mentioned more this format such as Vintage, Pioneer, another vintage deck, and it also used to play in Standard last year, but now it's less playable. So this is a really strong card, so that's why it costs $24. And the opposite, the cheaper cards are unplayable. Commons are cheaper, unplayable mythics are cheap, so that's how the market works. It just sets the prices for the card in real life. In Arena, the economy is a little bit different, and also in MTGO, the card price lower too, 2 times lower, 5 times lower. So it depends on the card and on the printing. But in real life, we have like all sets where a card can cost $1,000. In alpha beta sets that were on the start of the game, and the printing was not a big deal. So that's why the prices are really dramatically changing. Also, Wizards of the Coast can reprint the card, and when they reprint them, the value goes down. But that's not the case. Let's talk about other functions of the MTG Goldfish. Here we have popular cards and staples. It's a special part of the site where you can see the most playable cards in the metagame. Here you choose the format where we play: Modern, Pioneer. In our case, it's a Standard, a great format to start. Go for the Throat, Destroy Evil, Detain Stroke. It's 3 most playable cards right now. There's also a label, I suppose, because we have the main deck that needs Shieldred, and the Shieldred and a lot of big spells need to be countered, so this Evil Stroke is most playable. Third, Go for Throat, yeah, it's cheap removal spell. In each deck, just for 2 mana, you can remove any non-artifact creatures, and the amount of the artifact creatures in the metagame is low. Destroy Evil is the same. We have lots of enchantments in this metagame. Sagas, lots of sagas. We have Shieldred, the strongest creature in the metagame. Against Shieldred, those 2 cards are really great, because the first card in the metagame that plays in this 40% of the deck is Shieldred. It's really the strongest card. It plays in Pioneer, in Modern. It just destroys standards. Really strong card, but you can find answers too. It's strong when it sticks on the battlefield. So top spells, top lands, same. I just made an example, just analyzing those cards, but you understand the logic. The most playable cards are here on the top of the meta game, and you can always see them. If you want to see which card is really strong, which card is enormously strong and will be banned soon. For example, in Modern, in Pioneer, and etc. You can just switch between modes, between different formats, and see which cards are playable and which are not. So price is the same card by set. I prefer to search card by set, and then the prices are there too. But I know ways they double this, and so the price is here. Really strange part of the site. So this is the most useful popular decks in metagame. In this icon we can see lots of different decks. Those decks are metagame decks, but not all of them, to be honest. As they just mentioned all the archetypes here and how many percent they take of the metagame. For example, Esper Midrange is really playable, the strongest, I suppose, deck in this format right now. It takes 17.3%. I agree with them. Even in most tournaments, you can see this deck, the main decks are really popular right now. He's play big threats, Atraxa, to just win the game, refill your hand. For example, Esper Midrange is really strong deck too. So mono red strategies are always reliable in most meta games, because we always have like cheap aggressive creatures for mono red. But most of the decks, as you can see, are a control deck, are a mid-range deck. because the metagame in last like few years, Visuals does not like to print control cards and too strong aggro cards. They just print mid-range decks. But one minus of the MTG Goldfish, the biggest minus, is that it displays every single metagame metagame deck, metagame archetype, even if it's not unplayable, if it's not played, if you won't get really nice results on tournaments, they will display anyway because it appeared on the big tournament. For example, I'll set like 30 days, or let's see how much does it take to load these decks. For example, I take, okay, that's 30, okay, let's take 14 days. For example, mono blue tempo. And I want to give an example of my recent tournament results. For example, you see Gru Aggro, the best deck. Here's one, is 5-0, but a few days ago they displayed my deck as the top one. When you click on the rules, there was my deck with result on the tournament 0-2. Here we are. So be careful when you see the deck. When you copying and pasting this deck, when you see the results, the standard league, the standard challenge, it depends on the tournament. For example, this it's a box slice tournament with 1 star. It's not a strong tournament, to be honest, but when you have an awful result, such as 1-3, 0-2, this deck is not think twice to copy it to that deck. For example, this on Blue Tempo deck is a great one. I made a 4-3 with it, and so it's still on the top because it's really rare in the metagame. Most of the people does not prefer to play standard league or tournaments with mono blue. So when I played it, I took like 22 plays, and it's still in the top when you click on it on the MTG Goldfish. So be careful when you net deck it. See the results first of all, because it can display even an awful deck such as mine, Gru Aggro. The took a result as 0-2. That's what I wanted to say about the metagame. So also you can see the article of Wizards of the Coast. I think they are not so useful, and also I want to mention that the budget decks are not playable too. Please do not spend your money. Okay, if it's in arena tokens, it's not real, but do not spend your real money on not playable decks. They just brood, they just play with it a few matches, and then it's not the test deck. The test decks metagame are those like in standard, especially because there are not many archetypes and not big part of them are playable. Like on the second page, our decks are not playable at all. For example, there would be only 1, 2, 3 lists of Greeks mid-range that are not tested. So the tested decks are these ones in the first metagame, and choose like, I recommend to choose 90 days to see the really tested approved deck, but not but decks that are on the budget, that here in the budget part, they are not playable at all. They just brew it to make videos, to make content, but MTG Goldfish does not guarantee you any result with these decks. They're just awful. So I mean, don't play decks from the budget brew here. Downside. Also, what I want to mention here, we can just create your own deck, create your own collection if you want to filter something just by logging, and see here is a really good part of the site. You can see the spoilers of the next set. By clicking here, they just print all the new sets here, and you can just click and watch the new set, new cards, new announcements, etc. And the articles are pretty good too. So we net decked. We found the deck, for example, and we just copying it or playing it in real life by by purchasing cards. So it depends on you where you want to play Magic the Gathering. So those sites are really common. There are lots of really different projects. MTG Zone, MTG Top 8, Acer Hub, MTG Goldfish, I think is the most reliable one, because the interface is really simple, user friendly. I prefer MTG Goldfish, but as I mentioned, it has its own minuses and pluses, strengths and weaknesses. Sorry. So that's how we do. That's how we search for our deck, reliable deck, searching results, tournament results, and brewing it, copying it to Arena, purchasing real cards, and playing it, playtesting. So on the next video, we are going to describe one of the methods of playing Magic the Gathering in MTG Arena. We are going to maybe test some decks to have some practice, and by practicing, you're going to by giving an experience, you're going to raise your play level a lot, and not just by watching the metagame, just by playing those decks many times, different archetypes many times, you will understand how the metagame works. And after you're playing, for example, 2 or 3 years, your skill will be rising. You will want to learn other formats, other card pools for the other formats, but the best way to start is to play standard, because we have like only not a big amount of a cards pool, and it's easy to start for a new player. Well, thank you guys for watching. See you next videos. Stay safe.